Good morning, everyone. And I just realized this is actually a very good sequence of presentations and talks. We have Michael talking about using AI to help solve some of the climate-related issues. We have Robert talking about using multidisciplinary approach to solving problems. And we have Firas introducing to us the metaverse. Um, well, I'm actually trying to work with my team to look beyond what is possible with the metaverse. And coming from, an experience where I lived in Hawaii for over 23 years, it taught me a lot about Mother Nature, the abundance that Mother Nature provided to us, and how, as the stakeholders, the fiduciaries of this environment, we have to do our best to take care of it. I mean, it's just like coming from an Asian culture where, parents took care of us all our lives. And as they get older, we should do our best to take care of them, to give back, right? So at Xcutality, the immersive tech startup that I'm running with my partner, Adrian, we're looking at helping to reverse climate change with the metaverse. And climate change right now being a very hot topic, no pun intended. Um, and especially in Singapore, temperatures are really getting a little bit crazy, not what I used to remember as a kid. Um, and really using what we know of metaverse, not just the metaverse, but immersive technology and spatial computing to look at solving some of these problems. So like what Firas was saying, the metaverse is capable of so much more and it's already here today. Our definition of metaverse really is the convergence of the physical and the virtual worlds. And with that, how can we start creating ecosystems to address some of these big issues? So doing a little bit more research, because I didn't come from this space. I came from a background of finance, so I had to do a lot of research to figure things out, to really, provide a solution to address some of the systemic issues. So the world is literally burning, not just from climate issues, but also from war-related issues and whatnot. But just looking at some of the statistics, temperatures have risen um, on an average of 0.13 Celsius per decade over the last 50 years. And that's twice as fast as the previous 50 years. And we're expecting for temperatures to rise another 1.5 Celsius by 2050. So these are things that are pretty disconcerting. And if you look at the greenhouse emissions, right, there are more carbon dioxide, methane, and nitrous oxide than any other time in the last 800,000 years. And that's pretty massive considering we managed to break this record in a matter of decades, right? And something that is even more important is topsoil. I'm not too sure if you guys know what topsoil is, but if you scoop up with your one hand soil from the earth, right? That one handful of topsoil consists of more organisms than there are humans on the planet. Okay, so we are seeing topsoil getting destroyed because of massive globalization, urbanization, agriculture and whatnot. And just to remember that topsoil is responsible for 95% of all of our food, and and more than half of it has disappeared in the last 150 years, right? And this topsoil provides a lot of nutrients, to plant, to animals, to us, right, to all the different organisms living on Earth. So really, if you went out and just Google, topsoil is the single biggest contributor to climate change. And as we're looking at the industry to address our ESG narrative, we decided to build our first Web3 ecosystem in agriculture so that we can start tackling this topsoil issue. All right. I'll explain in a little while how we're doing this. So if you look at some of the different industries, agriculture actually contributes a lot to greenhouse emissions, but don't think about it as the typical small farming type of practice. I'm talking about massive industrialized agriculture where we're focused on growing for trading and export, not necessarily to provide for the local community. And we're talking about single crop type of farming, and there's a lot of tilling, a lot of heavy use of pesticides and chemicals, right? And also the logistical infrastructure needed to support this agriculture and to support this massive growth of consumption. Um, and really all these different issues are causing all this temperature change. And it really started in the late 70s where temperature just started increasing and never stopped. From 1880 to the late 70s, temperatures have always remained consistent. Like it would have some minor spikes during Second World War and Vietnam War, but it always came back to the average. But it was only at the start of globalization, global trade in the late 70s, all the way to now, that temperature has consistently gone up and never came back. All right. And then one more fact that I would like to bring out is that of all the different industries contributing to emissions, technology sector is the one sector that contributes one of the least. And a lot of it is because digitalization actually is decarbonization. We're talking about not using as much physical resources, although some are arguing that data centers are actually contributing to carbon footprint. But compared to traditional high carbon industries like mining, like your garment industries, your transportation, traditional real estate operations, operating all these different heating systems and whatnot. Those are a lot more serious when it comes to contributing carbon, right? So with digitalization being a part of decarbonization, then perhaps metaverse is key to solving this climate change, right? So at Xcutality, we've been figuring out how to create this new framework and model to address the climate change concerns. And we decided that perhaps a new paradigm is needed in terms of how a smart city should be constructed or should be put together. And COVID actually gave us a blessing because we are now accepting remote work, all right? So the future smart city really should be built away from overcrowded city centers because you don't necessarily have to go to these city centers to look for good jobs anymore. And then right in the middle is to really um, put together an urban vertical type of farming to really support this city, right? And then perhaps work towards the trading and licensing of farm data so that if country A is interested in country B's dragon fruit, for example, then country B can license the data for growing dragon fruit to country A and then grow it in their own country's vertical farm rather than producing for export and all of the infrastructure that goes along with it. So hence, the reason why Xcutality started creating its first Web3 ecosystem in agriculture, and we called it MetaFarms, where we combine physical farms and metaverse and Web3 to initially address the issues faced by farmers in terms of low standards of living, low income. We're using blockchain technology fractionalization to help elevate their livelihoods by providing an alternate source of funding. And for the younger demographic, we are creating a farm-like gameplay where they can actually learn about farming, but in a fun way, educating them. And over time, we're using the NFT marketplace to put the power of farming to the hands of every consumer so that with every purchase of an NFT, for example, the farmer actually gets a module that's IoT connected. We can start collecting the necessary data to figure out what's the optimal set to do something, right? So I think my time is running out, but Over time, we believe that this sort of new smart city model can really help address climate change issues. Thank you.